cool and dresses cool.
Tell me about
But
it.
do you know what I mean? Like Hassan would be an influencer no matter what he was saying, because he...
Bro, imagine if it was two, like, fellas, and the guy's like, oh, tell me about it. You'd be called, like, creepy and all sorts of shit. When a homo does it, it's A-okay, apparently. Fuck me. Woke trash.
Chorus does not pay creators for content, does not tell them what to say, does not control who they talk.
That winds me up so bad. Yes, you do! You don't pay them to make specific pieces of content, but without your money, there's no guarantee they would be making content. You are propping them up. Dude, it's so dishonest. I have struggled to find balanced coverage of this, because it's either libtards saying that there's nothing to see here, or it's rightoids claiming that, you know, so they're all just fucking, they're all just shilling the DNC talking points. Now, someone said that Actual Justice Warriors coverage was fair, which I'm a bit skeptical about. Some of his stuff I've seen is okay. Other stuff I've seen, I'm like, not 100% on. But let's see. Maybe he is fair. Maybe he is fair.
At the risk of giving an internet troll more attention, I want to address a piece that Taylor Lorenz wrote yesterday for Wired. An initiative aimed at boosting Democrats online offers influencers up to $8,000 a month to push the party
Lemon Character offering a gift to Baby Lemon. Nathan Weddle, thank you for the super chat.
line. All they have to do is keep it secret and agree to restrictions on their content. Literally nothing in this statement is true. The article is about Chorus, which is a nonprofit that I helped found to build up a creator ecosystem, which everybody says they want, but few are doing.
Is that the idea behind this group is exactly what I've been advocating for years. For years I've been saying the left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does. The right has won even arguably presidential elections because they're organized with regard to online and independent media.
Yeah, I think I was saying this yesterday. I guess I was thinking maybe of stuff like the Daily Wire stuff maybe. But then the Daily Wire stuff is, I think, more transparent by its nature because they're on the Daily Wire network. So obviously they're getting paid by the Daily Wire. Whereas, what is the equivalent of this on the right? What's the equivalent? I know people might point to like Tenant Media. I think that was bad for different reasons though, because it was more so the foreign money. Yeah, the Tenant Media thing was worse, but that was like surreptitious foreign money coming in and, you know, influencing stuff. Like it was worse. It was worse than this. Oh, that's, yes, the influenceable thing. Yeah, okay, that's probably a fair comparison. Where there was basically I think Robert RFK Jr. was talking about removing soda from SNAP benefits and stuff, and all these right-wing influencers, a whole bunch of them, like almost at the same time, put out this message that was basically like, oh no, people should have choice. You know, don't take Coca-Cola off Snap. Let the people have choice, and that's the best way to do it. And it was kind of like, why are they all saying the same thing? It was the same, like an ad read. And it turns out it was a fucking ad. And it was basically this influencer agency, obviously a campaign presumably from like a big soda lobbyist. And they had paid these influencers to post these messages about fucking soda and shit. So yeah, it's that sort of thing, isn't it? And they didn't disclose that it was a paid, you know, they didn't disclose the circumstances. They just put the message out and that was that, you know. Which is obviously bad because, you know, you should say if you're getting paid to say something. Yeah, sure, something like that is probably a similar thing. Although I guess you can say here that as far as we know, I don't think it was like, they get around it a bit in this way as well, to be fair. But they're not paying them specifically for certain messages. There's potentially influencers they're trying to put on them to get them to say certain things, like these meetings. And the money is just to help them in the course of making content. But they're not getting paid directly for messages. But then, if you don't disclose it, I think it robs people of the ability to assess of their own accord if they think that that money and that backing could potentially influence what they're talking about, you know?
They're killing us. We've been so behind. And this kind of support for creators is exactly what I've been advocating for.
There is panic among the left-wing creator ecosystem as Taylor Lorenz, of all people, has dropped an article from Wired Magazine alleging that dark money groups are funneling money to Brian Tyler Cohen's organization called Chorus, and that is essentially
Well, if you don't follow the talking points during the meeting, are you going to need to get paid? Well, the thing is, right, and this is the point I made when I spoke about this bit yesterday, I don't think it's necessarily the case that they'll say, oh, you're not following the right talking points, we're going to take the money away.
Okay, that's
I think
wonderful.
it's more kind of like implication-based, you know?
People?
It's quieted down now, but there was a massive Gavin Newsom AstroTurf attempt over the last few weeks. Very Kamala vibe shift-esque.
I did see a bit of that. Thank you for the $5. So it's more so about, like, if you're an influencer, you've quit your job to start getting paid by this organization. You go into these meetings, they're giving you discussions of certain talking points, certain topics. I think that you're kind of naturally going to move towards covering and talking about those things because that's the influence at play. You're getting paid by this organization. You're going to want to placate and please them. So you're likely to think the best way to do that is to say the things that are coming up in these morning meetings and shit like that, you know? Yeah, it's like soft influence. It's not, you must talk about this. It's like, you know, here's $8,000, and hey, here's some ideas for topics. You know, here's some big points at the moment. Do what you want with that, right? Wouldn't it be? It might be a good idea to cover this. Might be a good idea to cover this. What do you think? You know, like that sort of energy. I think is more so what it's about.
Dictating the politics of a bunch of left-wing creators, both established and upcoming, and supposedly they are being paid to the tune of up to $8,000 a month in order to produce specific content in line with Chorus's mission statement. Now, of course, Taylor Lorenz is a very sketchy person who is not worthy of trust, so what I want to do is actually go into her article, talk about the creators that are being highlighted, but also discuss what I think is happening, because I actually believe that the truth is in between what a lot of the creators who have come out and spoken out against this article have said, and of course what Taylor Lorenz is doing, and by the way, is doing based on her own agenda. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who funnels dark money through me over at actualjusticewarrior.com.
Okay, I think you might give this a fair shake, to be honest. I think you might give this a fair crack.
/join.
All right, I was not even going to talk about this because I hate participating in the drama. I hate the circular firing squad that often builds on the left. But it's really important that my audience know what's going on, so I am going to talk about it. I was named in an article in Wired yesterday, and the article is
AJW is fair when it has nothing to do with black people.
It's about a so-called dark money group on the left called Chorus.
So David Pakman released...
Yeah, I really hate the circular firing squad stuff is extremely obnoxious, and it just suggests that it's like baseless, stupid, pointless criticism, left eating itself shit, when I think there is some value to some of this criticism at least.
This dramatic video entitled "They're Trying to Take Us Down," where of course he opens with the classic YouTuber line, which is, I didn't even want to talk about this. Normally I don't discuss this. Normally I would ignore this kind of thing, but I just can't seem to do it because I owe it so much to my audience out there in order to explain what's going on. Honestly, I'm sick of the YouTubeisms in these kind of situations. I wish people like David Pakman would get to the point, because what his point actually is, to me, is a bit ridiculous, although I understand from his skewed perspective how this could be understandable. So essentially, David argues that the right wing has this coherent, working together, interlocking media sphere. And because the right works so well together, because we all coordinate all of our messaging and attack at the same points, because it's all pre-planned behind the scenes, David Pakman has said that he wants to be a part of an organization where he ends up building up the left-wing alternative media, because the left is 10 years behind on the internet.com. Now, while
I think that I don't know if it's like it's more just a product, I think, of, you know, political perspectives having the same takes on things. I don't know. Like, he's obviously saying it in a silly way because he's mocking the idea of it, but like obviously the Daily Wire has probably got singing from the same hymn sheet to a certain degree. There's maybe disagreement here, disagreement there, but on the whole, they're going to shill for Israel at the end of the day. That's what they're going to do. But then beyond that, I don't know, like random influencers, unless there is a direct connection to them and some org that they're getting paid by or something, I don't really... Like, some people probably are just saying what they think about it, and it just so happens to align with other right-wingers, right?
Completely disagree with David Pakman's assessment that the right is this coherent monolith moving in one direction or another, when in reality, in my experience, what I've seen time and time again...
Yeah, I just think like the TYT model, where they have like affiliated YouTubers that have got the TYT branding on, I think that's just like extremely transparent. It's similar to the Daily Wire thing. It's very transparent. You know that person is getting paid somewhat by TYT. They're associated with the org. And you can't say fairer than that, you know? It's when it's surreptitious behind the scenes and it's not disclosed by the person they're getting paid a fucking big chunk of money by this org. That's when I think people generally have a problem with it, you know? I mean, $8,000 a month is a lot of money to be getting paid. It's a lot of money. I think any amount of money should be disclosed, but particularly when it's like that much money coming through. Like, fuck me, dude.
Again, is a bunch of different right-wing creators ripping me off and not even giving me credit for the ideas and stories that they steal from me. In reality, I understand that there are certain media organizations and certain groups among the right wing that basically boost up talent and manufacture talent in order to bring them forth to the public. I mean, make no mistake about it, Brett Cooper is a product of the Daily Wire. This was an actress that they recruited, gave her own show. She was extraordinarily popular enough that she was able to go on her own, but she still started out as an industry plant. The same is true for Tomi Lahren, except she was somebody who was an industry plant over at The Blaze. So in reality, there are certain groups and certain organizations that attempt to foster talent, but the idea that the right-wing ecosphere is all of these influencers coordinating and working together...
Yeah, exactly. But then the Daily Wire thing is transparent. Like, Brett Cooper works for the Daily Wire because they're on the Daily Wire, you know. I think the Coke thing was the best example of it happening on the right. That's probably the closest thing you could think of. The tenant media stuff, sure, but that was a bit more complex and obviously a lot worse because it was like dark Russian money or whatever. And I don't think that you can really put that on the broad right wing. You can only really talk about that in the context of the people that were associated with it, you know?
But how do I make money off depressed people?
Chud, I can't believe you are falling for this guy's lies. You never trust a guy who has no lips and looks ugly. Taylor Lawrence is a 50-year-old bulldog.
Thank you for the $5 Canadian. Poo-boo-doo-doo. Thank you.
Is ridiculous and absurd. In reality, most of the people on the right-wing side end up just doing their own thing. They end up fighting against each other. There's a lot of pettiness over here, which I'm sure is not all that much different from what goes on the left wing, with one exception, which is, of course, because the left-wing narrative is, in fact, the mainstream narrative, they don't gain as much traction on the internet.com because already, at this moment in time, 92% of the mainstream media, outside of Fox News, of course, parrots their talking points, so there's no need to search
I mean, liberal, sure. But, like, there's a lot of far-left positions, particularly on things like Israel-Palestine, for example, that are not parroted in the mainstream. I mean, sure, there's some narratives that align. But I don't know if I'd put that broadly on the entire left, because there are absolutely more extreme positions. And you could even use that to bolster your point, because these people tend to get, you know, they can get big viewership and big audiences because they're on the other side of it, you know, outside of the liberal media establishment talking points, you know?
The internet for a lot of people for these alternative viewpoints. So David Pakman, I think he's wrong, but I also understand...
Yeah, social issues, sure. Yeah, like trans stuff. Even the far lefties would probably have the liberal take on trans stuff, right?
That is very likely that he believes in this. And in reality, I'm also not against, in principle, the idea of building up younger content creators. In fact, I would love to be the head of an organization or receive a stipend or something of the sort.
Give me the money. Give me the money.
Okay?
In order to help boost up my channel and my content. However, that's just not the way things work, at least for me, and it never has. Now, according to this Wired article, it says influencers included in communication about the program, and in some cases, an onboarding session for receiving payments from the 1630 Fund, which is supposedly the dark money group that is behind this all, include people like Olivia Juliana, the centrist Gen Z influencer who spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Now, first of all, only in the radical mind of somebody like Taylor Lorenz is Olivia Juliana an actual centrist. If you guys will recall, this is a person that the left actually put forward as somebody who is going to lure men to the left-wing side, and she got really upset when people started making fun of her based on her weight. Because and she got really upset.
What the fuck, dude?
True gamer became a
What up? Hey, Sidney, thank you for the 10 gifted. Thank you.
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money off depressed people?
Patrick Amsterdam became a member.
Well, I think we all know where the $8,000 is going there, don't we? Thank you for the 10 gifted. That's great. Thank you.
How do I make money off
That's
depressed
isn't that tipster of the week? Come on.
Upset
Go on.
when people started making fun of her based on her weight because she said, oh, she is really speaking to men. She knows men better than anyone. And again, I understand why people were mocking her as well as the other people that they try to lure over to that side because they seem to be completely out of touch and ridiculous. Remember, Taylor Lorenz, the author of this article, went on a podcast with a very flamboyantly gay person to talk about bringing men over to the left-wing side, and all they ended up doing was thirsting over Cenk's nephew during that particular episode.
The other thing with Hassan, he's unreasonably good looking and like cool and dresses cool.
Tell me about it.
But you know what I mean? Like Hassan would be an influencer no matter what he was saying because he...
Bro, imagine if it was two like fellas talking about a woman or something. Like, you know, two straight fellas talking about a woman. And the guy's like, oh, tell me about it. You'd be called like creepy and all sorts of shit. When a fucking homo does it, it's A-OK apparently. Fuck me. Woke trash.
He is
hot,
very attractive and very cool and genuinely a good person too. I will say, like, Hassan is actually a cool, fun, good person.
Now look, if you want to learn a little bit more about Olivia Juliana, my friend Tony Ortiz over at Current Revolt actually did a lengthy sit-down interview with her so you can get an idea of where this person is coming from. But based on the fact that she was given a speaking role at the DNC, I am not surprised to see her on the list of influencers that they're trying to build up over at this organization. But in addition to that, we have a few others who, again, most of which I have not heard of. You have Lauren Pierta, a former Playboy executive turned political influencer who hosts a podcast for Occupy Democrats, again, another sketchy organization. Barrett Adair, a content creator who runs an American Girl doll themed pro-DNC meme account. Sounds pretty lame. Suzanne Lambert, who has called herself a Regina George liberal, which is kind of embarrassing in my humble opinion. Aria Fodor, an education creator with 1.4 million followers on TikTok. Sander Jennings, a former TLC reality star and older brother to trans influencer Jazz Jennings. Now, if you guys don't remember, Jazz Jennings is one of those transes kids who was put through the procedure, which was broadcast on TLC in reality show form for entertainment at a very young age. It's embarrassing. It's ridiculous. And of course, there were a bunch of different articles and whatnot that Jazz Jennings and Jazz's mom talked about how Jazz wasn't doing the things to make sure you maintain your transness, and this was likely indicative of some kind of depression. But of course, they end up recruiting there, and of course, we have David Pakman and a few other people involved. Now look, based on the list of creators right here, I am not surprised at all whatsoever that some of these people are being propped up.
Also, another point with this as well that I think is worth highlighting is this idea that it's all like nothing to worry about, nothing to see here, doesn't need to be disclosed. Why have they only got progressives as part of their stable of creators? Why haven't they got any right wingers? Well, to me, it seems likely because you want to have people that have got progressive views because that's the kind of views you want to push, and you're going to help them have ideas or certain talking points to select and talk about with these meetings that are happening, you know? It's so stupid to be like, oh no, there's no influence there. You know, they don't need to disclose it because they're not getting paid to make the specific videos or the points. They're just getting paid to help make the videos. Well, there's a reason you're selecting progressive people, because that's the kind of politics that you're associating with and wanting to push forward, you know? No, it's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. I mean, with progressive victory, like your counterpoints, for example, but counterpoints is hardly like a dyed-in-the-wool hardline conservative. He's obviously like got social conservative views, but you know, he does align with Trump, with the Trump stuff. He does tend to align more with sort of Democrat-esque stuff. Did he? Who did he vote for? I don't know who he voted for. But you know, I've got a gut feeling he voted for Biden, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. Is this an FEC violation? I don't think so, no, because I think it's... Funnily enough, I'm fairly certain that it's structured in such a way that it completely circumvents all those sorts of rules. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Particularly, well, I don't know if this is the FEC aspect of it, but the aspect of disclosure when you're getting paid, as long the argument is, we're not paying them to say certain things, therefore you don't need to disclose, it's not a sponsorship, right? So yeah, it's all very like dishonest and like not really addressing some of the actual points being made. There's definitely some people that are overblown in the criticism. Like, you know, I think it can exist if you want it to exist. You just need to say that it exists and they're paying you. That's it. Once you do that, fucking fill your boots, whatever you want to do, you know? And then obviously if you want to scrutinise and criticise aspects of the contract, fair enough. But I just have a very kind of fundamental view that, you know, it's more or less buyer beware. Like, if you look at you should do your due diligence, but if you look at the contract and you like it, then you sign up to that. Well, that's your decision at the end of the day, you know? Like, I wouldn't stop someone signing a contract just because I didn't agree with the terms, as long as there was no serious exploitation happening, obviously. But if you look at it and you're happy with it, well, that's your fucking lookout at the end of the day, you know? It's your decision.
Buy money from a left-wing organization in order to keep them functioning. In reality, this is actually the stated goal of Brian Tyler Cohen, who is the founder of this particular organization, and he explains that the reason he wants to do this is to jumpstart these people's careers.
How do I make money off depressed people?
I'm tired of hearing counterpoints. As a conservative, the only thing that bloated military flop out is trying to conserve is the taste of coming dust in his wretched mouth.
That is sick. But thank you, Stylo, for the 333.
So they don't work a full-time job anymore.
Anyway, sorry, I got distracted.
However, that some of these people are being propped up by money from a left-wing organization in order to keep them functioning. In reality, this is actually the stated goal of Brian Tyler Cohen, who is the founder of this particular organization, and he explains that the reason he wants to do this is to jumpstart these people's careers so they don't work a full-time job anymore.
So here's what Chorus is. It is a...
It's just so crazy that there's this idea that, like, oh, you don't need to disclose it because it's not a sponsorship and stuff like that. And they're saying people are quitting their job to get paid $8,000 a month by us to make content. Right? Like, you know, this is all about, like, basic influence. Very simple influence. It's very simple, isn't it? If your money is reliant on an organization, you're likely to want to do things to placate that organization, even if it might be unreasonable to do so. Even if it's not clear or explicit, you know? Like, it's just so obvious. It's such an obvious take. It's bizarre to me that some people seemingly can't even accept the idea that you should disclose this. Just disclose it.
Scholarship program to teach creators how to grow their accounts, foster engagement.
Dude, $8,000 is, whoa. What are you on about, dude? That's tons of money. I mean, you know, I don't know if they still get their ad money and stuff. I don't know how that works. But presuming there's a little slice of extra income, they're on a 6-figure salary. They're on a 6-figure salary. That is insane money.
launch their own shows, and become profitable on their own. It's an incubator program to build the pro-democracy ecosystem. Influencers and creators have never been more important when it comes to how Americans are consuming their news. The right has been doing this for years, and the left needs to catch up. That's why we're doing this with Chorus. So let's talk about what Chorus is and what it's not. Chorus does not pay creators for content, does not tell them what to say, does not control who they talk.
That winds me up so bad. We do not pay them for content. Yes, you do. You don't pay them to make specific pieces of content, but without your money, right, there's no guarantee they would be making content. You are propping them up. Dude, it's so dishonest.
Talk to or work with, and there is absolutely nothing in the contract that could even be reasonably interpreted to say that we do. Period. Full stop. I don't know a single creator who
I think that, you know, you can say, I think it seems true that they're not paid money specifically to say a certain thing or specifically to say, put this exact video out. But I feel this response is kind of obfuscating the nature of the influence that's occurring and acting like it's not there when it clearly is.
Willfully sign up for a program that would tell them what they can or can't say. That's not what this program is. We pay people to show up to workshops and technical trainings to opt.
Where did the money from Raid Shadow Legends pay you come from? Where's your transparency? Is that a serious comment? The transparency was the fact that #ad was in every stream title and the box was selected that said paid content on the stream. And the fact that I said, this is a sponsored fucking thing. Bro, what are you on about, dude? And if you want to know the fucking where the money came from, you know, you could probably figure it out. Polarium paid Stream Elements, who then offered me a sponsorship, and that's how the fucking money came from. Am I getting baited? Am I getting baited? Dude.
Optimize their content online. For example, we've got trainings on how to package content for YouTube, trainings on how to optimize audience retention for Instagram and TikTok, trainings on how to form an LLC.
And again, this makes perfect sense to me because there's a lot of people in.
Oh, so the website saying we're paying these creators is not transparent. It's not transparent enough because you might not know about the website. You could be watching an influencer that's paid by Chorus and you might have no idea the website exists because the influencer doesn't mention that they're paid by Chorus. So the transparency, okay, is that they put #fucking Chorus or whatever they want to, and then they can go and look and see what Chorus is all about and do research and find out what they think about it. No, it's not enough to have a random website of a company that people might not be familiar with somewhere on the internet that lays this out. How is that fucking transparent, dude, if the person that's getting paid doesn't themselves talk about it? And the thing is, some have. Fine. My point is, everyone, blanket, disclose it. That's it. End of fucking discussion.
In the creator space that I can just look at and examine and realize by looking at them that there is no way, shape, or form that their job as a creator is actually paying the bills on its own because their economic model makes no sense at all whatsoever. Now you compare and contrast that to me, where you look at my monthly views on a platform like Social Blade and you can get an idea based on Social Blade estimates of a wide range of incomes for somebody like myself. Factor in Patreon, factor in Subscribestar, individual donations, and of course my website memberships, and you get an idea of how I can make a living that ranges from an okay living to a really good living.
Chud, you were in Project Victory. Why should we trust your words when you ain't showing us evidence?
I wasn't in Progressive Victory at all. That's fake news, misinformation. I was never a part of Progressive Victory. I was on one of their streams because I was in the area for a fucking event, for a thing. That's it.
Living depending on, again, my monthly viewership.
Bro, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I never have and never would take money from a political organisation under any circumstances to surreptitiously or openly for any sort of sponsored content. Because I just think it's too easy to slip into, it's like, it's too easy for you to slip into being influenced by that and maybe saying or doing things that you might not otherwise do. Yeah, I don't know. Unless it was a lot of, maybe it was like $1 billion, maybe, but
Again, it's easy to discern who has a viable model and who doesn't. And in that regard, by the way, David Pakman clearly has a viable business model. The guy has a ton of sponsorships. He has a ton of subscribers. He gets
Thank you for the super chat.
A bunch of views on many of his videos, and it doesn't look like he has a widespread operation. So I don't believe that David Pakman has sold out for the money for this particular organization. And I actually genuinely believe that he does see this as a way to foster new content creator growth in order to fight back against conservative media, which of course he doesn't understand fundamentally why it has grown so big. It's because unlike his content, which is very anti-Trump,
Trump bad, Trump bad,
which is very similar to the mainstream media, conservative media or online conservative media provides an actual alternative to a mainstream narrative.
Yeah, dude, wait. And that narrative is Trump good. Bro, are you fucking serious? Come on, that's a bit fucking... That's coke, man. Oh, we're offering an alternative to the mainstream narrative. We're brave enough to say Trump good? Like, you're just shilling the fucking... You know, you're shilling in a different direction for another entity of power. For the fucking, you know, Republicans.
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money off depressed people?
Here's some dark money. Oh, not like that, though. Thank you, Styler. Very good. Thank you for the $2. Thank you. Yeah, man, that feels very, like, I don't know, disingenuous to present it like that.
Now, the article is riddled with inaccuracies, and they're not minor inaccuracies. First and foremost, this group has nothing to do with the DNC.
Okay, that's
people
wonderful.
writing saying
But how do I make money off
the
depressed
Democratic
people?
Party.
Reform UK wants to sponsor a gaming stream where you fire cannons from the shore at migrant dingy boats. Let the games begin.
How much? How much? Thank you for the 333. Thank you. I think that they probably align goal-wise at some points with the DNC, but I don't think it's right to say that the DNC... I don't think it's been evidenced that the DNC are, you know, saying what to say and stuff like that, right? And there are examples of them criticizing mainstay DNC politician types, you know, so I think that's probably an overstatement, I would say.
Is telling people what to say. At its base, the group has nothing to do with the DNC, period. Number two, I do not get clearance for anything I say. I do not run interview questions by anyone at Chorus. I don't tell Chorus when I'm going to be doing an interview.
I mean, David Pakman is a massive influencer in his own right. You know, sure, I can imagine he probably doesn't, but a smaller influencer that has just fucking, you know, left their job and has started becoming a full-time creator with an £8,000 stipend, I could easily see how they could be influenced to work with Chorus, and it could easily have an impact on their content. You know, I'm like, great, good for you, but, you know, what about these smaller creators? You know, and the thing is, the ones that are in it, I mean, I don't know if they'd be transparent and honest about it, what they say about it, because some of them probably are loving the fact they get paid $8,000. Like, this is the problem. It's very difficult to get to the bottom of this. There's obviously people that refuse the contract, maybe they've got something to say about it. But it's very difficult, and this is why I think it's always troublesome when you take this money, even though I think it should exist, and if you want to do it, fine. It's difficult to really untangle the influence of that money and the benefit that it's giving you and what your kind of true perspective and takes and stuff is, you know?
Now, this is, of course, where I come into conflict with the overarching narrative from Taylor Lorenz, which is that all of these creators are being paid in order to say specific things directly by the DNC via these dark money groups, because in reality, as I've told you a million times on this channel, that is not how these influence operations actually work.
Okay.
This is something that people get wrong all of the time. What actually happens with these organizations that want to promote a specific worldview is that they don't reach out to people that disagree with them in order to pay them to repeat their talking points. And by the way, it has been made clear by multiple different people, including this particular article, that this organization has only been up and running for 1 month or 2 months. So the idea that they've had this broad influence already when they've been exposed basically at the start in the incubation phase is patently absurd and ridiculous. But the thing that Taylor and a bunch of these I'm holier than thou people people don't seem to understand is that these organizations don't pay people to change their minds. They pay people and prop up those who are already aligned with them, those who already agree with the things that they want promoted, because it's much easier to do it this way. I mean, really think about it. You have organizations like Russia Today, who is now defunct, RT America.
But the mainstream narrative is Trump bad, so there's an incentive to watch AJW, not Dave Pacman. AJW's talking point, one line right, has more cultural juice, not that they're less biased. Oh, I see. Okay. I think that the right have definitely built mechanisms of content, and there's a lot of like alignment and linking in of stuff, right? Like, I mean, the Daily Wire is probably the best example of this. But then again, the Daily Wire is, I think, quite transparent in what it's all about. You work for the Daily Wire, you work for the Daily Wire. It's obvious. Apparently, this guy didn't cover Epstein, I'm being told. I mean, if that means anything to you, I don't know. Apparently, he didn't cover Epstein.
That hired figures from all over the political spectrum. You had Ron Paul, Jesse the Body Ventura. You also had Ed Schultz and a bunch of other people, both left, right, and center. However, they all shared one common belief, which was they were very skeptic of American policy, especially foreign policy. But whether or not they talked about that was irrelevant, because what Russian influence ops want to do is actually just get us focused on divisive issues. That is why they would have people who were super pro Black radical, Black Lives Matter, and also would have people on the flip side that would be arguing against that. It's not about what position is right versus what position is wrong. It's about getting people talking about divisive issues. Think about Al Jazeera and AJ Plus, all this left-wing garbage content that they spew out there about how America's corrupt, the millionaires and billionaires are financing everything, and all this stuff that reads very left-wing was being pushed by that organization, while at the same time undermining American foreign policy in the Middle East, because the whole point of Al Jazeera and AJ Plus and all of those groups is, again, to undermine confidence in the American system from whatever side. In fact, it's actually better for them to do it from both sides of the aisle, because if they do it in that way, guess what? People say, oh no, I'm getting the truth. I'm getting a real perspective here because I'm hearing from all these different various people. But I'll give you a little bit of a secret. I'll give you a little bit of a hint based on my own personal experience. I actually knew one of these people, actually a few of these people that ended up working at RT, and one of them, prior to signing the contract, promised me up and down that he would bring me on as a guest contributor for his show because he thought I had a good perspective. He liked to argue against me, and yes, this was a left-wing individual, but guess what?
This Chud guy doesn't react much. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted today. Oh, yeah, so he's saying a bunch of stuff. He's basically saying something, and then he's saying something else, and then he's going on to say something else. And that's basically what's happening at the moment.
When push came to shove, I never once got the call to appear on the show. Never got a DM, never got a message, never got anything of the sort. And the reason for that is because they don't like the kind of content that I produce, because I am not somebody who throws America under the bus immediately in order to generate outrage clicks. You guys know my position on how ridiculous it is for everyone to be worried about World War III all the time, and I've stated so multiple times. So guess what? When it came time to give somebody the call, even though I had a connection, it was never me. You might find people who agree with me on a whole host of issues that are appearing on that show that give the illusion that they're going for broad perspectives, but in reality, what they wanted were my more divisive takes, or somebody similar to repeat more divisive takes, while at the same time not having any chance of somebody countering their main narrative, which of course is undermining American power across the world. Now, the same exact thing is true for these left-wing or right-wing organizations, and the beauty of running an op like this is that you don't actually have to have it in the contract that you're not allowed to go against this candidate or this narrative. In reality, all you have to do is set up a culture, recruit a certain amount of people, and because your donors are coming from a certain section of the Democratic Party or the Democratic Party donor base, it is just expected that people that are to be recruited are going to be aligned with the mission. Now, of course, Taylor Lorenz casts a sinister shadow over all of this, and part of the reason why is because she wants the Democratic Party to embrace the extremism offered
Yeah, I think that there is an element of like the shadowy organized. Like it's not. That's probably an excessive framing. I think dark money is like a reasonable term because you don't know where the money is coming from. Like the money comes into this organization, and then that's it. You get paid out of the org, but there's rules in America where you don't have to disclose like who has paid money into the org, right? J money.
By Jank's nephew, and in fact, she dedicates a whole paragraph to condemning the DNC for not inviting Jank's nephew to a bunch of different events, even though, by the way, he was invited to the DNC and allowed to broadcast there, because of course they catered to him. He just ended up making it not worth their while.
Lorenz says that the 1630 Fund is, quote, a powerful liberal dark money group. 1630 Fund is our fiscal sponsor. One of the largest documented donors to 1630 Fund is the same person funding Meteor's Reporters in Residence program, which Taylor Lorenz herself is a part of. And guess what her monthly stipend is? $8,000 per month. So she's criticizing an entity that is funded by someone that she is currently taking money from. I guess it's okay when Taylor Lorenz gets paid, but no one else. The monthly stipend that we offer is so that creators can do this work full time.
Now, by the way, Brian Tyler Cohen also decided to throw Taylor Lorenz under the bus, talking about how she received a stipend worth up to $8,000. I don't know the truth of this, but she's denying this. Brian Tyler Cohen is saying that he's not receiving money on this, and it's an absolute mess. I love the infighting, but of course, I wanted to give you guys a perspective on how these operations actually work, because what you're seeing right here is basically competing spear merchants going after each other, playing fast and loose with the facts. And just because we like the idea of a bunch of these left-wing creators being propped up doesn't mean we should get on board with somebody like Taylor Lorenz, who has been an advocate for censorship and all sorts of crazy things, and by the way, whose most viewed video on her YouTube channel is about people assassinating the President of the United States of America. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Taylor Lorenz really at all in any way, but I mean, yeah, I whatever. I mean, she has raised some relevant points and criticisms that are worthy of some consideration. And I think that kind of like, oh, you get money too, is a bit of like a cheap attempt to try and kind of smear her, you know? And I don't even know if it really stacks up because I'm not sure if receiving a stipend for some journalistic endeavor I would classify in the same way as for political commentary. And also, I don't know what disclosure she has made or otherwise, know nothing about it, you know? So it's very difficult to really assess what I think about that because it's basically just chucking it out there without much insight or information or evidence.
So yeah, obviously there is an astroturfing effort with certain creators. In fact, one of my friends, Nuance Bro, did a video on Harry Sisson and that other guy, Chris Mowry, I think his name is. If I'm wrong, then correct me in the comments and then I'll delete that comment because I don't care if I'm wrong about what his name is, and how they received all this money from organizations like Midas Touch through their media organization. So yes, this does happen, and obviously it's a red flag when a creator has no viable business model but is living the high life. But I need you guys to understand that in reality...
Bro, how is that sweeping? I just don't know. I don't know what the details of it are. I've got no idea. Maybe there's some hypocrisy, perhaps. Sure, maybe. I don't know. Possibly. But that's the only really point you can make, is it's potentially hypocritical. Because, you know, if you can't have an issue with her doing it because you yourself are doing it, right?
They don't really pay for people to change their minds or toe the party line. They just highlight people that are already going to do that. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, then show
yeah, that was pretty reasonable, I think. That was pretty reasonable. Okay. I think Actual Justice Warrior did okay there, personally. What do you think, guys? Right, guys. I've got a bit of kick drama here. Let's get into this. Let's get into this. He's somewhat fair. Well, this time it's not really the same as what we looked at before. Previously, it's been people dying, people getting the shit kicked out of them, and stuff like that. My only criticism is that I don't feel more racist after watching it. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So I'm told that the first 6 minutes of this are